So welcome back to episode number 2 of Sonographers After Dark. My name is Lara Williams, and I'm your host for this podcast. So I know I introduced myself last time on the first episode, but I want to dig a little bit deeper. Again, Sonographers After Dark is really about what we do as sonographers, but also just how to live our lives around what we do as well. So I want to just take a moment to introduce me. I know I talked a little bit about how I got into ultrasound and how it was a complete accident, but I also just kind of want to walk through some of the things that I've done in my career, because not that I'm anything special, but I just want people to understand that there are so many opportunities for you in ultrasound. So again, if you're a student and you're thinking about getting into ultrasound, go for it. If you're already in ultrasound and you're a little burnout, I get it. I've been there. So I just kind of want to share, again, a little bit about my background that has led me to this place in my career, almost 25 years in. And so, there's so many things that we can do. And, I've held a couple of different roles. I've been an educator. I have done accreditation across the country. So about 5 years into my career, I got into mobile ultrasound. And so I first cross-trained into echocardiography, and I worked with a mobile ultrasound company. And then I went on to manage that company. And so, as I'm managing a lot of the schedule and things going on with that organization, I realized that I could do it for myself, right? I was busting my ass. I was working 90 hours a week almost. I had a kid. I was a single mom of, I think he was 2 at that point in time, 2 or 3. And I just was like, why am I doing this? Why am I killing myself for someone else? This is crazy, And so I was still pretty young. I'm not anymore. That's okay. But, my kid is now 21 almost. He'll be 21 in a month and buying his first house. But anyway, so this was when he was about 2 years old. And, I had been in ultrasound for about 5 years. I had registries in vascular ultrasound, general ultrasound, breast, cardiac, and I'm finding myself with a lot of skill sets that I had learned through working for a trauma center. I had learned through working for this business and then managing part of this business. I had, been a lead in the past with other things. And so, one of the things about me, even when I was not doing ultrasound, I always kind of ended up in management. Don't really know why. I guess that's just how I'm built. And so I found myself at this place where I just wanted more. I wanted freedom. I wanted independence, and I didn't have that. And so I took a risk. And I guess if you know anything about me, if you know me, you would know that I kind of just jump and I build my parachute on the way down. And there are times that has been completely successful. And before I hit the ground, I'm good. There have been other times I've probably hit the ground, but that's okay. You learn, you get up, and you keep moving. And so I opened my own mobile ultrasound company. I bought an ultrasound machine similar to this one, and I just ran. I went for it. I started working in doctor's offices, doing my own contracts, working a couple days a week, making more money than I was making it for the other guy. And I loved it. I was working for cardiologists. I was working for primary care offices. This was all in the Central Florida area. And I loved what I was doing. I had the ability to make my own schedule. Now, granted, it's hard work. You have to bust your ass. If you're a business owner and you're stepping out into business to do your own thing, you have to bust it, okay? Because there's no one else to fall back on. You don't have a check coming in from someone else. You don't have anyone else putting food on your table for your 2.5-year-old son, right? I had to figure that out. And I learned through a lot of trial and error, let's face it. I somehow figured out how to grow that business. I ran that business for a decade, and it was the best thing that I ever did. I learned so much running that business that I actually took it from being a mobile ultrasound company to being an IDTF, which is an independent diagnostic testing facility. So I got it registered through the state of Florida to be able to bill Medicare and CMS. And so I billed insurances as well. I also got it registered to bill insurance through Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, all of those things. And so, I learned so much through that process. I did it all myself. And can you do it yourself? Yes. Should you hire someone else who can shortcut you to that process? If you have the money, do it. Because it was such a challenge, and it was such a big undertaking to do all of those different things. I got my mobile ultrasound company accredited through the IAC for echocardiography. I did all of those things, and I did it all myself because that's just how I'm built. I probably do a little too much of myself and don't delegate quite what I should, but that's okay. So I did it all myself. I learned so much through the process that now I help other people do that too. And so it has given me skill sets in this industry, not just in ultrasound, but in business. And that is an incredible resource that if you have any knowledge or background in business, you can make so much more money for yourself than you ever will working for a hospital or for anybody else. Now, I still staffed hospitals, so I would still work for hospitals. I would still work with contracts where we would go do all the pediatric echoes for one facility. We would go do pediatric echoes in a pediatric cardiology office. I actually had 34 sonographers working for me, multiple ultrasound machines, opened up a 3D, 4D ultrasound center, as well as the independent diagnostic testing facility. So I say all this to say that there's so much opportunity in ultrasound that if you're feeling stuck, you don't have to be. And if you are new, don't go out and do that quite yet. Get your bearings first. Learn everything you can. But there's opportunity for you. There's so much opportunity in this industry. And most people don't even realize it, And so just a little bit of elbow grease, I guess, a little bit of work effort, and you can build an empire in ultrasound. I promise you, it has paid me dividends over and over and over again. And yes, I closed that business because of some health challenges. I almost died. And so that kind of changed what I was looking at that point. I have since opened up another business back up again. I've also opened up an ultrasound education business, all about ultrasound.com, iheartecho.com. So I've done a lot in ultrasound, especially in ultrasound and business. And so I just wanted to share that with you, that there's so much opportunity for growth, for new things, for freedom, for independence, that you don't have to be stuck where you're at. You don't have to be stuck doing 20 exams in a day and killing your shoulder. Are you still going to face challenges doing mobile ultrasound? You betcha. Especially when you're taking a machine portable into maybe a physician's office or a nursing home, or sometimes a patient's home if you're doing home health care. And so then your ergonomics aren't great, right? Your ergonomics are a challenge in mobile ultrasound, probably more so than even in a regular facility. So be careful of that. You have to plan ahead for those things. You have to make sure that you are doing the best that you can to position yourself so that you're not stressing out your shoulders and your neck and your back and causing yourself to have injury. And there's a lot of things that you can do to set yourself up independently as a mobile ultrasound or IDTF or 3D, 4D ultrasound owner. And again, I help people do that. So if you're questioning, if you're not sure, I do some free discovery calls. I'd be happy to sit and chat with you for a couple minutes, see if maybe I can help you, maybe give you a couple ideas. Not a problem. I'd love to talk to people. So please reach out on my website, again, allaboutultrasound.com, and I'd be happy to help you with that. But there are opportunities. There are opportunities, and sometimes you have to make them for yourself. So where you might not see opportunity elsewhere, you can create your own opportunities. And that is the spirit, the heart of an entrepreneur. And I was born that way. So let me tell you a little story. So someone who was born as an entrepreneur, right? When I was 5, I lived in Pennsylvania growing up before I moved to Florida as a 10-year-old. And I wanted the new Cabbage Patch doll so bad. And so I gathered up all my little toys because my parents didn't have a lot of money. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My parents, they did the best that they could. And since then, they've made a lot more strides in their later life. But at that time in our lives, we were pretty poor. And so they couldn't exactly just go out and buy me a Cabbage Patch doll. So I was 5, right? 5. So I put all my little toys together in this little basket. And now you have to remember, we lived in very rural Pennsylvania where everybody knew everybody. And so I walked to the neighbor's house as a 5-year-old. Again, we lived in a very, very isolated community, and everybody knew everybody. And there was a little old lady who lived 2 doors down. And I took all my little toys to her in my little basket, and I was selling my toys door to door. I was a door-to-door salesman at 5. And so she bought them all, and I bought my Cabbage Patch doll. So that kind of tells you, that's ingrained in me and who I am as an entrepreneur. And so, throughout my career, I have worked for other companies. I've worked for hospitals. I've worked for other mobile organizations. I've worked for industry. I've worked for major manufacturers of ultrasound equipment. And every time I come back to entrepreneurship because that's who I am. That's how God made me. And so I know that I can't work for someone else and be fulfilled and be satisfied. Now, can I do that in projects? I can do a lot of things through my business as a consultant as well, to where I can work projects for other organizations, but I still maintain my freedom and I still maintain my independence. And so that for me is everything. I have actually walked away from jobs that paid me $150,000 a year because I'd rather have freedom. I'd rather have independence. I'd rather be me and be able to do the things I want to do in my career and be able to do the things I want to do in my own business, in my own creativity. So I love creating. I love creating content. I love creating education content. And so I want to be able to do that. And I would rather spend my time building my own content, my own business, my own legacy than to be paid with what I call golden handcuffs to work for someone else and build their brand and build their industry. And so I literally have walked away from $150,000 a year jobs in order to build my own. And so I'm here. Maybe that sounds stupid to you, but when you have tasted freedom and when you've tasted independence and when you are built as an entrepreneur at heart, as a 5-year-old going door to door, selling your toys for a Cabbage Patch doll, that is who you are created to be. And that's who I am created to be. And so that's why I'm here, because I love ultrasound. I love everything about it. I do, even though some of it's gross. Like I can't tell you some of the gross things I've encountered. Okay, I'll share some of those things. The thing that I hate the most, I hate feet, right? Disgusting. I cannot stand feet. Don't make me touch people's feet. It's nasty. Now, I'm an RVT. So I have to touch people's feet, right? So I think that was the biggest challenge for me to get through in ultrasound. I could be in open heart surgery. I can smell, a chest being cracked open. I can see all kinds of horrible things, but don't make me touch someone's feet. That's just nasty. So the hardest thing for me to get through in doing vascular ultrasound is to deal with people's feet. That's my reality. Tell me below, what's your one thing that you just can't stand that you have to deal with in ultrasound? And so especially the ones where you take the sock off and the dust, the skin cells just fill the air with this dust cloud of putrid skin. It's great. Fun times in ultrasound. But ultrasound, even with the feet, it's everything. So, there are so many things that you can do in ultrasound. You can specialize into OBGYN, you can specialize into echo, you can specialize into vascular, and your skill sets just grow from there, right? Again, I've had opportunities in my life that most sonographers do not have in their career, to have the ability to not just have exposure to some vascular or exposure to some OBGYN and echo, but actually be proficient and be completely involved in OBGYN, in MFM, in vascular, in echocardiography. And when I had my business for that decade, when I was doing mobile ultrasound and I was having that independent diagnostic testing facility, I did all of that. So we had contracts where we did urology. So I'm scanning penile Dopplers. We had contracts where we were doing pediatric echo and fetal echo, and we were doing adult echo and staffing and TEEs. And so it kept my skill sets to where I was able to stay proficient in all of those areas all at the same time. And so for me, that is invaluable, because that has put me in a place where I can provide education in all of those areas as well. And that's what I do now. And so I love what I do. Again, I also have a mobile ultrasound company that I have restarted back and working that into an IDTF as well. But also ultrasound education. That's really my favorite part of ultrasound, is ultrasound education. Being able to share the things that I've learned along the way with you and being able to help you increase your skill sets. Because at the end of the day, as we all increase, I don't want to just help someone pass a registry exam. Yeah, I have registry reviews on my website at allaboutultrasound.com, but I don't want that to be the only thing. Registry reviews and just learning by memorization isn't enough. I want to be able to help produce quality sonographers who are critical thinkers, who understand pathology and what steps they need to take in order to document that, prove that, and be able to give the surgeon, the physician, the answers that they need for diagnosis and for treatment. And so that's really where, the sonographer line has to be drawn, is that quality factor, because we don't want to just have a mass amount of sonographers who really aren't critical thinkers and they don't understand why they do what they do. Because you can pass a registry exam. I have a lot of them. I've passed a lot of them. People can do that all the time. You can memorize a lot of things to pass your exams. But just because you're a good test taker does not mean that you understand pathology and you understand how to image and you understand if you see this, you need to look for this, right? And so being able to be that critical thinker and help people understand how and why they do what they do, not just taking pictures because they're told to do so in a protocol, but understand why that picture is taken. They should understand that every time a sonographer takes an image, there should be an understanding as to why that image is being obtained, not just to get it because it's in a list of a protocol. So that's why I'm here. I really want to help educate sonographers who are newer into the field to make sure that that knowledge transfer takes place so that we have sonographers in the field in another decade from now who are able to then pass on their knowledge the same way, so that we have a field full of critical thinkers, of sonographers who do the best they can before dark, during dark, in the dark, and after dark, right? And that they are advocating for their patients by the images that they take, by the exams that they perform that are quality exams, not rushing. Yeah, sometimes we get faced with all these exams we have to do because of our employers and how they schedule things, but we need to advocate for ourselves too. And so advocating for yourself as a sonographer and understanding how to go about that, you can go to your management and say, I need to have this amount of exams scheduled. But are they going to listen to you just because you say that? You have to have the backing behind you. You have to have the critical thinking behind you to say, this is what I need to allow for. And so having accreditation helps with that, right? There are accreditation standards, but if your lab's not accredited or if they just don't care about that, then you have to be able to go to them and express that you are at a liability, right? The hospital, the organization is putting themselves at liability to not allow for you to do your job fully to the best of your ability, to be able to diagnose completely and provide that patient with an adequate exam. And so I think that, when we look at the big picture of ultrasound, there's so many things that are awry, but also so many things that are still so good. So don't be discouraged. Don't give up. Don't walk away from this field because you're burnt out. Go work for yourself. Buy an ultrasound machine and get to work. I promise you, it's totally worth it. You can make a ton of money, and money's not everything. You can also have the freedom, the independence. So don't feel stuck, and if you're not the person who's an entrepreneur and you're like, yeah, what am I going to do about that? It's okay. Find somewhere that you are valued. Find somewhere that your employer values who you are, what you bring to the table, your skill sets that you have, and find a place that can grow with you, that you can grow your skill sets and that you can provide value to the field and to your patients as well. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and share. I'll catch you next time on Sonographers After Dark.